Workers in America used to get their education in what they called the School of Hard Knocks. The students in those opening scenes you just saw are the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of those workers, the millions for whom labor was the only learning. Believe it or not, they were shown in Queens College classrooms, studying underwater mapping, electronic music, and mass communications. They're getting an education not only in conventional classroom settings, but, like their grandparents, in the infinite laboratory of the city and the country itself. My name is Ralph Haig, and I graduated from Queens College in 1950. Back in those days, the Queens College Bulletin was one slender volume. Today, there are many Queens College catalogs. They reflect not only the fact that enrollment has more than doubled, and that graduate and specialized programs have been added, but also an exciting variety, flexibility, and quality of choice in the undergraduate curriculum.
For those of you who are students here, the Owls and Jefferson Hall must seem familiar. But the Owls look out on a campus where growth and change startle the traditionalist and worry campus conservationists trying to hold on to some vestige of space and greenery. Queens College and its students are much a part of the city that supports and sustains the giant city university of New York. In the next 10 years, the red-roofed Spanish-style buildings will give way as a $200 million building program implements the college's master plan. Students come on campus, often parochial, unreflective, uncritical. And here, they reflect and argue and open their minds. They meet foreign students, older students, students from American minority groups, and from many areas of the Caribbean and Latin America. Like all New Yorkers, ingeniously, they find ways to be alone in a crowded and abrasive environment. Like all college students, they find fun, love, friends, and they play. Like all youth, they explore and sample and are drawn by the unique and by the primitive sensuality of ritual and music. In the past year or so, students have assumed mature responsibility in voting for their own representatives to the chief legislative body of the college, the Academic Senate. Here, in the Senate, students, young faculty, and senior professors painstakingly write the laws that govern almost every phase of the college's life and curriculum. In this chamber has been hammered out a curricular freedom that, for example, lifted college-wide, although not departmental, requirements for the bachelor's degree at Queens College. A freedom that has made it possible for some 2,000 out of 17,000 full-time undergraduates to enroll in some kind of specialized program in honors or interdisciplinary or tutorial studies. Queens has matured from its beginnings in 1937 as a small, somewhat provincial teaching school into a major university-related institution with a national reputation. Yet Queens puts heavy emphasis on teaching, still requiring all its faculty to teach. Even its young president, Joseph Murphy, remains Professor Murphy, a political philosopher who meets a class every week after hours in his office. The full-time faculty, numbering about 1,300, has attracted some leading academic figures. Economists Abba Lerner and Michael Harrington, physicist and oceanographer Taro Takahashi, mathematician Edwin Moise, critic Eric Bentley, Joseph Brodsky, the Soviet poet in exile, sociologist Edgar Borgata, political scientist Andrew Hacker, and Boris Goldovsky, founder and director of many opera theater groups. At Queens, the faculty, from the most recent lecturer to the academic star, teaches. Here in the classroom is daily evidence of the faculty's concern with what happens inside the student's head, with their growing awareness of their own attitudes and understanding of other realities, of the effect these have on their decisions and their morality. In small classrooms, in lecture halls, in groups and alone, teaching and learning is the reason for Queens College, and this end is clear. What often is not clear for the student is which of the dozens of routes to that end he or she should choose. In an institution catapulted within a decade into several schools and graduate divisions, and now founding the City University's first School of Law, selecting courses and programs becomes a test in itself of a student's ability to accumulate data and draw conclusions. Registering 30,000 students takes a lot of computer terminals, but for the individual, those punched out program cards represent hours of agony and decision. Registration formally was a matter of skillfully fitting a group of required courses into a time schedule that was fairly civilized, that avoided such problems as the 7 a.m. bus and a 4-hour hiatus between Friday afternoon classes. And those pitfalls still exist. But now students may select, within departmental requirements, among a list of courses numbering into the thousands. Besides this, honors and interdisciplinary programs make it possible to construct a major. For example, in biology art or in chemistry anthropology. Individual honors work has always been part of the curriculum. Students, like this sophomore, do research under faculty guidance. But because she could begin such research long before her senior year, and because students need not major in a discipline for honors work, the effect is a curricular variation that is distinctly different. The subject of this particular project is attention span in primates. Susie, a rhesus monkey, watches a TV monitor and, as a reward for paying attention, gets a drink of orange Kool-Aid. Some monkeys are raised from infancy in the psychology labs at Queens, making it possible to study their tactile reactions and development. These undergraduates are constructing organic crystal models from crystals which they grow themselves in the physics labs, a class of research which is unusual as, in the past, most research has been on inorganic crystals. In the low-temperature laboratory, students study various quantum effects in solids. Here, filling a chamber with liquid nitrogen and then with liquid helium, which produces a temperature of minus 455 degrees, just right for experiments that demand cold, clear reasoning. Up in the attic of one of the college's original 1910 buildings, students assist a member of the faculty who is constructing a microwave lab. Physical education is associated with sports, but at Queens today, student researchers explore such areas as the response of the heart to stress during a running exercise and measuring the amount of oxygen used by the muscles during a workout on an exerciser, tests critical to physiologists and cardiologists. The individualized BA is an extension, and a controversial one, of the traditional honors project. For the IBA, as it is known, students write their own course outline for a single semester or an entire year. One of the IBA students is a musicologist doing research on manuscripts in the college's special collection. After approval by a 3-member faculty committee, an IBA project can generate up to 32 credits for a year's work, taken on or off campus. Undergraduates come in all ages, and this junior is part of a research project in speech therapy, working with puppets in order to help young stutterers. Sometimes objections to this kind of independent work stem from varying concepts of academic standards. Sometimes the objection evolves from the nature of the project itself. For example, a student whose interests lie in the area of American labor relations spent a year with the United Farm Workers Union, observing and participating in their organizing activities. The concept of permitting students freedom to explore on their own under faculty guidance is not a totally new one. Hardware and instructional resource equipment, however, lately introduced into the humanities and social sciences, have altered both the look and style of these disciplines. Foremost among the catalysts has been the computer. At Queens, a Sigma 7, capable of doing up to 500,000 additions per second, speeds through student research queries, such as when and how it will be possible to put computer terminals in everyone's home, and how to analyze word permutations in poetry. Music is a way of life at Queens, which has one of the country's outstanding music departments, both in the performing arts and in musicology. The skill of this undergraduate quintet, practicing at a faculty member's home, comes as no surprise. But student performers, using an electronic music laboratory, do look and sound different from what you might expect. The Moog synthesizer, used here, was developed by Charles Moog, a Queens College graduate. Students in the field of communications or drama still study argumentation and Shakespeare.
Like thine eyes. The good years shall devour them flesh and fell ere they shall make us weep. We'll see him starve first.
The curriculum in Communication Arts and Sciences also puts undergraduates into an equipment-filled workshop as television crews and directors.
Okay, you're on.
Much research and study at the college focuses on that remarkable laboratory, the city.
When you had those big letters, in order to make it easy and make it quick.
In the spare quarters of an off-campus facility, an oral history class listens to taped interviews made by students of local residents who tell about their life experiences in middle-class and ghetto neighborhoods. An education major trains on the job in a school in Manhattan that is experimenting with open classroom teaching techniques. In a borrowed loft on 4th Street, students turn a printmaker's studio into a neighborhood art center for children and adults. Course-related fieldwork through programs such as Action or the college-sponsored Community Classroom sends well over 1,000 students each semester into public and private agencies, hospitals, prisons, storefronts. They serve, but they also question and seek to transform. Just as here, every Saturday, they open a world of shapes and colors where the self, however young or poor, can find and trace the endless patterns of its own vision. Also on a Saturday, near Co-op City in the Bronx, other Queens students make Orchard Beach their laboratory for a methods course in geological mapping, determining the structures of the rocks and, with an alidade, the compass orientation of lines and fractures. Such techniques are required for a summer field course given in eastern Pennsylvania. About 60 students each summer live on their own resources on an isolated beach near Cinnamon Bay in the Virgin Islands to take a course called General Science of the Ocean. Not many years ago, students in a public city university would have had little hope of studying abroad or of spending a summer in Europe or the Caribbean. But private and governmental scholarship aid and growing substantial aid from Queens College alumni help students pay their way on these important field trips. They become skilled divers and sailors. Underwater, the divers, working in teams, learn to map sediment distribution on the ocean bottom. The wreck of the Rhone, a British vessel sunk in a hurricane in 1868, yields up some artifacts which the students collect and later will catalog. Student divers also visit a research apparatus called a tektite, which is under the control of the Caribbean Research Institute, and in which scientists live for lengths of time to monitor the migrations of lobster and rare fish. Undergraduates on campus get set for a weekend field trip for a course in geology that will take place off the coastline of Long Island, formed some 12,000 years ago by streams depositing sand and gravel as they came off melting ice sheets. They board City University's research vessel, the Atlantic Twin, pulling away from the dock of the New York Ocean Science Laboratory at Montauk Point. The first mate and a Queen's professor chart the best course for the class's study of trace elements and metals in sediments, which will indicate pollution. This far off the island is one of the few places on the East Coast where the water is relatively free from pollution. Therefore, these sediment tests will give a good base map of the effects of encroaching pollution. Students on the trip, only half of whom major in geology, collect samples from a Van Veen dredge and place them in special bags. The samples are taken back to campus laboratories and separated into different proportions. Later, the whole sample is placed in a nest of sieves and agitated in a row tap. The results of these analyses are plotted on maps, and the variations between samples used to determine the sedimentary processes. Suddenly, those 4 rare years of college are over. Simulating the parades of medieval monks and scholars centuries ago, the faculty procession, followed by the students, winds brilliantly around the campus. In a college, history begins each year over again. The end and the beginning merge. The experiment becomes tradition. Restless, a college searches for truth both inside and outside itself. The search brings forth courage and fear, skepticism and dogmatism, ideologies, inventions, discoveries, beauty. Add to the Queen's College Bulletin adventure, change. Add to America another and perhaps different generation.